white and we're looking good. You'll be in for a fight and we fight pretty good. Getting goals is our job and we get goals good. Looking good, we are Carlisle United.
Hello everyone, you're listening to the Brunton Bugle, the number one place to get your Carlisle United fix in the podcast world. I'm Lee Rooney.
And I'm Dan McLennan.
Much better from the Blues as they end a 3-game run without a win by beating Colchester United 1-0 at Brunton Park. We look back on that solid victory before looking at this weekend's trip to Sussex to face this season's League 2 basket case club, Crawley Town. And that really was much better, wasn't it, Dan? I think it's fair to say.
Well, it couldn't have been much worse.
No, I mean,
worse,
I think it was you didn't do the last one. It was me and Mike, wasn't it, talking about the Mansfield game? I mean, you were there in person, and you did a little 6-second view for us. But I mean, can you still quite understand how on earth we managed to lose that 1-4? Oh, I can understand why we lost it 4 because we played badly, but how we played so badly?
Yeah, it's just chalked off down to one of them things. Hopefully, we've had a little bit of a mini blip. 3 games without a goal.
Yeah.
And we, Saturday was probably the perfect response, wasn't it? It's hard fought 1-0 win, clean sheet, bit of confidence.
Good solid performance as much as anything, wasn't it? They never really looked worried and
no. Even though it was only 1-0, I don't think we were ever in danger.
No, a couple of slightly shaky moments, but nothing that we'll talk about that soon anyway. So we'll rather get ahead of ourselves. But yeah, I mean, we're recording this on the Thursday, the 23rd of February, and what does this day mark, Dan?
365 days of one Paul Simpson being back at the football club. Incredible,
isn't it? I think it's 1 year ago. I mean, a few days ago there was a lot of talk. It was 1 year since that 3-0 defeat to Swindon, which is, seems a lifetime ago now. It's incredible to think.
Yeah.
And McCurdy running riot and doing us a favour. Hashtag thank you, Harry, for that one. But yeah, I got confused because I was talking about doing a Twitter space to you, wasn't I, the other day? I said, I'll do one on Thursday to mark 1 year since Simmo came back, and then I looked it up again. And I was like, oh, he wasn't appointed until the Wednesday. I was convinced in my head for some reason that he got appointed on the Monday, but actually what happened was there was a bit of another fallout, wasn't it? Because it's just over a year since Harry McCurdy did his best. It's not Harry McCurdy, sorry, Amari Patrick did his best Royal Rumble outside walkabout, didn't he, with Brendan Dickinson tag team? Yeah, so I mean, even looking back, that seems like an age ago as well, doesn't it? Things are a little bit out of control off the pitch, and everything's right and rosy now. Touch wood, but
it's also been the anniversary of he who shall not be named leaving the club.
I mean,
which was obviously the major catalyst for Simmo coming back.
Just as important, really, him leaving, and obviously Millen as well. And it just the atmosphere around the club, and you can't underestimate how toxic it became under he who shall not be named. I sent a thing in a WhatsApp group we're in, didn't I, Dan, the other day from, I think it was late 2018, where he was saying that the days of, contracts longer than 1 year are gone and will not come back. I mean, just absolutely mental way to run a football club, wasn't it, when you look back at it? And he was the one running it, and I say this with the greatest respect to, the likes of, Nigel Clibbins and the directors, but Pure Pay, EWM had a strong grip on this club at that point, didn't they?
Yeah.
They were basically, and technically they still do with that debt, but they've kind of sort of accepted that the owners have turned out and said, no, we're going to try and run it our way now rather than the way your man wants to run it. And the result is, it's chalk and cheese, isn't it? Between the two, the difference. And amazing to think he's been back a year, and when you listen to him talk, he sounds like he wants to be here for many, many years, doesn't he? It's not like back when he was, an up-and-coming coach and he probably wanted to prove himself at the highest level. I don't think that concerns him quite as much now. I think taking the club like Carlisle United as far as he can, I think I get the impression that excites him a bit more, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I think I've said previously, if we're talking long-term, I could see him eventually maybe moving on to the job that Greg Abbott currently does,
Yeah. Yeah, Greg's a few years older than him, to be fair, as well. So he's different age profiles, aren't they? So there you go. No, Absolutely, and hopefully many more years and many more successes for Simmo at Crawley United. Right, before we get going with the main episode, all the main stuff, Dan, as usual, we've got to tell you about who's sponsoring the podcast and also where you can find us on social media and contact us and how to subscribe to the podcast. We'd like to say a big thank you to the Crawley United Supporters Club London branch for once again sponsoring the podcast this season. The London branch is open to all Crawley United fans. They've got members from Cornwall to Dundee and Houston to Singapore and of course every part of London and the South East. They regularly meet up on away trips as well as arranging many social events, supporters games and fundraising for the club. This season they'll be providing us with information for the away games as part of the preview section. You can find out more about the London branch at their website, carlisle.londonbranch.org. If you haven't already, please make sure you subscribe to the podcast. You can find us on all good podcast apps, whether it's Google Podcasts, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Pocket Casts. Basically, search for the Brunton Bugle, click subscribe, and then when a new episode comes out, you'll get a little notification to tell you to download it and listen to it at your leisure. Also, if there's an option to review on any of those apps, please do so. If you can give us a 5-star review, that'd be really lovely. It's a great way for us to get the message out about the podcast, and so more people can learn about it, and we can spread the word even more. You can also find us on social media, at Brunton Bugle, on Instagram and Twitter. If you go onto Facebook and search for the Brunton Bugle, click like as well, you can follow our page. We're also on the Be Just and Fear Not Facebook group and also on the Buzzy's Back message board, the new message board that's replaced the cumbrians.net. And also, if you want to drop us an email, bruntonbugle@gmail.com. Okay, Dan, it's time for the news. We're going to start up with something that you're going to tell us a little bit, aren't you? This week, fans who've been keeping an eye on social media and the like will have seen that a group of young fans have been doing their best to spruce up one of the stands at Brunton Park.
Yeah, the so-called Warwick Road End on social media have offered, in it's their half term, the lads. They've been painting the barriers in the Warwick Road End. The silver has become blue, and the yellow back bits have had having a repaint. That's the last bit getting done tomorrow. But it looks absolutely fantastic. When I walked in today, I was walking down towards the Warwick from the East Stand car park area, and it really, really does stand out. And the side walls are being painted blue, and there's the money that got raised the other week. We're currently in the process of ordering some stuff. We're not being as open about what's being ordered this time because we kind of want it to be a bit of a surprise. Mm-hmm. And I think the Tranmere game on Good Friday is penciled in for the unveiling of all that's happened. So obviously the next couple of home games, you'll see the barriers and the wall. But then after that, there's a little bit more going on. And it'll be a sight to behold come the Tranmere game.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic, isn't it? In fact, you recorded a little bit for us, didn't you, while you were down at the ground today? So do you want me to play that now? So we'll give it a little listen. Here we go.
Right, I'm just down at the Brunton Park on a Thursday afternoon, and I'm just with some of the lads who are doing a bit of painting in the Warwick Road End. Lads, tell us what you've been doing.
So we've got the barriers painted, we've started on the walls, and we're just going to revamp this Warwick Road End and get it bouncing hopefully and nice and clean. We've got many displays coming and good stuff for Grimsby at home hopefully. And we'll get an artist coming in, getting the walls painted one more. I don't know, it's just going to be looking good, isn't it? Yeah,
I've got to say, I mean, fans won't see it till the next home game, but it looks absolutely different in here now. It's really, really good. And no credit to you for giving up your time in half term. I mean, there's been quite a few of you down, hasn't there?
We've had good numbers. A few lads have came down. You've got to respect it, don't you?
Yeah. No, it's good crack. You enjoyed it?
Yeah, it's been fun.
Yeah.
It's something, hopefully, when we're older, we have kids of our own, be able to show them what we did when we were their age. Yeah.
No, fair play. Thanks for chatting, lads.
There you go. Not the most talkative lads, bless them. I think they
were a bit microphone shy, but no, like I said, the work they've put in this week, and fair play to the club and whatnot for backing them with it. You know, they had a little visit off Simmo, Christian Dennis, and Morgan Feeney the
Yeah,
other day, which
fantastic.
they were buzzing about. So.
Brilliant. That's exactly
No,
what you
good
want to
stuff.
see.
And keep your eyes out in future weeks.
Yeah, definitely. Like I said, I've seen, we've all seen the photos and thing, and it looks great. Because I mean, I think the example someone used a while back, wasn't it? Exeter City, they've got all their crush barriers painted in their stand, and it looks great. And I think two people in the past have said, "Oh, why can't we make ours look a little bit better than that?" Well, these young lads are taking it into their own hands. As the saying goes, actions speak louder than words, don't they? So well done to those young lads for all they've done. One more little bit of sort of newsy bit to cover here, Dan. I think you're going to talk a little bit about this. There was a food bank appeal last weekend at the game, wasn't there, for kiosks?
Yeah, obviously, as part of the kiosk board, we try and do a food bank appeal each season, and the Colchester game was our chosen one for this year. And we had a van by the study centre. And we had fantastic turnout of folk dropping tins and juices and pastas and all sorts. And it all got sorted out into different boxes and whatnot and dropped off at the folks at Carlisle Food Bank on Monday, who were grateful and thanked everyone. And we'd like, speaking from a kiosk head, we'd just like to thank everyone who donated. And, hopefully next time we do one, we can get even more in.
Brilliant, yeah, it was great to see. I popped out. Fortunately, I didn't have any stuff with me, but what I have done, I've donated to Carlisle Food Bank, because you can do that online. You can make a cash donation, because I've donated through a special little appeal that's been launched by a group called the Waterworks. Now, the name doesn't sound that familiar, but you may know these. It's a music group, I should say, their band. This song was released many, many years ago, wasn't it, Dan?
It was in the days of MySpace and that, wasn't it?
Yes, because it was on MySpace. Now, there was a song that appeared on MySpace called Carlisle's Ganning Up. And it's a very, very basic song. Unfortunately, I haven't got around to actually downloading the clip to get it ready to play in here. So, in fact, I'll magic it in by magic. I won't actually play it right now, but here's a clip of the song.
Ganning up, ganning up, ganning up. Carlisle's ganning up, ganning up, ganning up. Carlisle's ganning up, ganning up. Ganning up, Carlisle's ganning up, ganning up, ganning up, Carlisle's ganning up. I'm gone down the groan to Dixie Chores in blue. First to the beehive, 'cause no one likes a queue. The peeves gone down like a pure on butcher gate. 'Cause there's no as good as Brunton Park with me mates. Ganning up, ganning up, ganning up. Carlisle's ganning up, ganning up, ganning up. Carlisle's ganning up, ganning up, ganning up.
So if you hadn't heard that before, you will not be able to get that out of your head for quite a while now, I'd imagine. But when it originally appeared, it was a lot rougher than that, wasn't it? It was very basic.
Yeah.
This is a proper recording. So
The original was like it was done on a broken Bontempi organ or something.
It was, wasn't it? It was
Ganning up.
It was very basic, but that sounds a lot more pressure, a lot more fun. But yeah, the lads who've done it, basically, they've stuck up on SoundCloud. There's links you can find on our social media. But what they've asked people to do is, if they like the song and they're really keen on it, to fire over some money to Carlisle Food Bank. They put a Just Giving a link on their account. So if you want to go on there and drop them some money, I've done some on behalf of the Brunton Bugle. So
when we tweet this episode out, we'll add the link in the second tweet.
Absolutely, yes, definitely. So you'll be able to do that. So yeah, if you can go and give it a listen, and go and donate money to Carlisle Food Bank as well. And hey, you never know. Come the end of the season, we might change theme tune for a couple of episodes. We might just do that. That might be what we do. So there you go. Fantastic. Right, Lone Watch time, Dan. We've obviously got a new one in there as well now with Kai Nugent added in, but we'll start with the highest level so far, as we always do. Max Kilsby at Allen Athletic. Last week they had a bit of a disappointing result, didn't they? They lost to Dumbarton, although decent, not the worst result in the world, only losing 2-1 to the table toppers. This weekend they played second place Stirling Albion. They took a 2-0 lead, but they couldn't hold on. I mean, 75 minutes and they were playing against 10 men for 75 minutes and still managed to draw 2-2.
Yeah.
Bit frustrating for them, I guess. But another full 90 minutes for Max, which is a good thing. He's on to 23 appearances for the season now, 3 goals under his belt. I imagine he's probably... I mean, we say this every week, but I think he must have a decent chance of maybe getting a new deal next season. I think he's shown himself, he can play at men's level, and I'm sure Murph will be able to advise Simmo on that. So, have to wait and see, obviously, but it'd be great if he could. Lewis Bell, 25th appearance of the season for him at Gretna 2008. Unfortunately, it's another defeat for them, although coming up against the SPL B team is always going to be a bigger challenge, isn't it, I think, for teams like them. They actually took a 1-0 lead at Celtic B, but ended up losing 3-1. I think Celtic be like 4th in the table and Gretna are something like 17th at the moment. So there you go. Next for them is a home tie against what I think is one of the best named teams in the UK, the Civil Service Strollers. It's a wonderful name, isn't it? It's just incredible, isn't it?
I mean, there's fantastic names across the various leagues in Scotland, the juniors and that, but Civil Service Strollers has always been... you just got an image of blokes in suits playing football with suitcases.
No, it's not even that.
And not running down the wing, sort of fast walking down the wing.
It takes me back to it makes me think of like the 1870s or 1880s, where they wore long shorts and wore flat caps while playing football and and blazers and things like that. It's incredible, isn't it? Yeah, but there you go. Sam Fishburn, a couple of games for Morpeth, but 2 defeats, unfortunately. A 4-2 loss at Marine, followed by a 2-0 home defeat to Liver's Edge. Sam was an unused sub in the defeat on Merseyside, but then started the midweek home loss against Liver's Edge before being subbed on 57 minutes. So yeah, not going particularly great for the Highwaymen at the moment, and they next face a home fixture with Nantwich Town.
They seem to switch the team about a bit, don't they? Because Fishburn's been in and out, So
well, they've signed Ryan Donaldson, haven't they? I think he was on trial with us many years ago.
Yeah, he was. He played at Durham in a friendly.
Yeah, that's the one. So yeah, they've signed him fairly recently. I think he scored a couple of goals.
Yeah.
Kai Nugent. So yeah, he obviously last time we did a pod, we talked about the fact that he'd signed for Workington. He'd already made his debut then in a 1-0 home defeat to Bootle. This weekend he made his full debut for the Reds, and he played in a 3-1 win at Runcorn Linnets. And a great name for a team there as well, isn't it? And by all accounts, put a very impressive performance in, including assisting a goal with a great little run. Although some people are disputing that, saying a defender was the one who assisted it while sliding to tackle him, but we'll give him the assist. Mike would give him the assist, wouldn't he? I'm 99% saying in his dubious assist.
Without his run, the goal doesn't happen.
Oh, 100%. The defender had to slide in because he was passing it anyway. But yeah, so interestingly, he particularly earned the praise of Danny Grange after the game, didn't he? For this one. He was very, very clear how good he was and gave him that little creative spark. And you can see that he isn't the biggest, but you can see he's very good with his footwork, isn't he? Very tidy footwork. And it's clearly something that Danny's seen up close, hasn't he? Because he's been helping out coaching with Mark Birch in recent weeks. So yeah, really good stuff for Kai. I mean, he's got a great game this weekend to play in, though, hasn't he? Top of the table clash, first v third. Reds are at home against Macclesfield, who are very much the big spenders at that level. They've got some players there who probably should be playing National League, haven't they?
I read the other day that I think they're averaging 3,700 at home this season, which is probably double what they used to average in League Two.
That's the thing I don't get. Where are these crowds coming from? Fair play, they're getting big crowds.
It's just the Savage effect, isn't it?
I mean, fair play to them getting these big crowds in, but they never got anywhere near that in the Football League most weeks.
Yeah.
Amazing to be fair. Finally, Dan Hill, Clayton Mill Celtic. I mean, they were supposed to play Nelson at the weekend, but it was postponed due to waterlogged pitch. They had a midweek trip to Darwin, and that went ahead, but not an enjoyable trip to Lancashire for the West Cumbrian side. They were soundly beaten 5-1. Although it should be noted, another former Blue, Connor Hamill, scored a consolation goal late on in that game. And this weekend they face a trip to Merseyside to take on St Helens. Right, there you go. That's the Lone Watch done, Dan. Let's get on to it. Carl United 1, Colchester United 0. Match review time. Yeah, I think we sort of covered it at the start, didn't we? But just a really good, solid, hard-working performance, this one, wasn't it? And what the response you really needed to that Mansfield game.
Yeah. Like I mentioned at the start, clean sheet was a massive thing in this, and Colchester didn't really put on us much, did they?
No, I mean, my first thoughts when we were watching them was that I can see why they've got themselves out of trouble because they look pretty solid at the back, and they weren't. They certainly weren't one of the worst sides I've seen this season. They
look quite organised, and it's a bit of a cliche now, but organised teams generally do pull away out the pack, you know.
Yeah.
So
yeah, they were tidy in possession. They were okay, and Matt J had some nice little moments, but they did look a bit toothless up front, and that's partly due to our good defending, but. On the flip side, well, yeah, I think the front two that started didn't look quite up to it, to be honest, at first. So yeah, it was an interesting one in that sense. Simmo had said before the game, hadn't he, Dan, that he was going to make changes to the lineup. 4 made in total. Were you surprised with the changes that happened? Obviously, in terms of, I think the strikers changing probably wasn't as much of a shock, was it? Because he seems to like alternating them at the moment, doesn't he? Dennis and Gordon and Garner and Patrick. And it was Garner and Patrick obviously came in to start. In defence, Jack Ellis in for Joel Senior, and in midfield, Alfie McCalmont in for Jordan Gibson. What are your thoughts on them?
Well, I think defence, I think with Senior, it's a case of not pushing him too much because he's had a hell of an injury, and obviously Ellis coming back, he did look tired towards the end, hence he was subbed.
Yeah.
But, we've now got 2 lads who've returned from injury who can both play the right wing-back role, and, hopefully they'll spur each other on,
Yeah.
And, and like I say, if one is getting tired, you can bring another one on, if they're on the bench and whatnot. So
Yeah, I was quite impressed with Ellis, to be fair. I thought he had a really good game, considering it was his first game since, what was it, I can't remember what it was, sometime at the end of December, wasn't it, basically, when he got injured.
Yeah.
So that was pretty good.
I think the McCalmont one was probably one that a few people half expected.
Yeah.
I think Jordan Gibson's just blowing hot and cold too much at the moment. And on the back of 3 games with the team not scoring, it was probably the most likely to be changed, I would say.
Yeah, I kind of feel like... Sorry, go on.
McCalmont's waited his turn, and bloody hell, he took his turn, didn't he, early enough? But no, he looked quite a tidy player, McCalmont, and like I think Simmo sort of said, he's given me a dilemma now, because it'd be very harsh to drop someone who's scored the winning goal in a 1-0 win on his full debut.
Yeah, with Gibson, I kind of feel like he's had a fairly decent run. Actually, he's been pretty good playing as that sort of central attacking midfielder for quite a few games. And even in the games where we've not played great, that run of 3 games without the win, in at least 2 of them, he was probably our best player, but he's looked really good. But at the same time, there was occasions where we're just not picking him out. He seems to be a bit wasted out there. So compacting that midfield and going for 3 proper central midfielders in there, like proper... not defensive, but you know what I mean, certainly more sitting midfielders probably works better, doesn't it, in this situation? It kind of made sense, really, when you want to tighten things up a little bit. Well, yeah, let's get on to it then. Start with the goals. Well, I'll say the goals. The goal. McCalmont, I mean, what a start to the game this was in terms of, you win some, you lose some, don't you, with your defensive errors. And you saw a few weeks ago, poor Paul Huntington was the one who made the cock up and put it into the back of his own net. Connor Wood must be cursing his decision-making there for this one, mustn't he? Because I can see what he's trying to do, to be fair. He's trying to head it down to Connor.
Oh, yeah. When you watch it on the TV highlights that I follow, he is, but I think he genuinely doesn't realise how far out he is.
Well, I think as well what it is I don't think he's trying to head it back to the keeper. He's trying to head it back to the defender who's coming across him, but because he's having to stretch his neck really to head it down, he's already started his motion to do that, and Connor Hall has already started to move across beyond him and leave a big gaping hole there. And the key thing is that McCalmont takes a chance. So essentially, Huntington hooked it forward, didn't he? And Moxon put a pretty innocuous header down. Wood goes to head it to Hall. Hall steps out the way already, but as Wood is going to head it. And Alfie McCalmont just takes a gamble, doesn't he? He puts that press on and goes, I'm going to have a go here. it falls absolutely nicely to him, takes a touch, and it's a great composed finish, isn't it? Because it'd be very easy to scuff it straight at the keeper from there, wouldn't it?
Yeah. No, he put it away lovely. Proper placed it almost, didn't he? It was, just reward for taking the gamble.
Definitely. And that's the first chance that came. I watched the extended highlights back, and that's the first chance that comes up, basically. I thought we chose some good pressing before that. But beyond that, I mean, a Colchester player tried to lob Holy from 45, 50 yards. I mean, come on, you've got to do well with your shot to do that against a 6'9" goalkeeper, haven't you?
Yeah.
Ambitious. And then probably the best chance to make it 2-0 in the first half. And I just nipped to the toilet actually just before this, and I came out the toilet and saw this building up. So I saw John Mellish basically did brilliantly to slide in and win a ball, play the ball to Patrick. He played a lovely 1-2 with Garner, who laid it off perfectly back to him. And by this point, Mellish, as is his wont, had charged forward, and it was in the area. And Patrick played an almost perfect ball into him. And I say that because you just wanted it in a position where it was just in front of him or just onto his left foot. Unfortunately, it was right into his feet, and it never was at any point really on his left foot, was it? And he basically just had to take it as it came across him on his right, and he sliced it wide of goal. And it was just frustrating, that one, wasn't it, really? I think slightly more in front of him, he probably could have taken a touch and hit it, couldn't he?
Yeah, it was just one of those, wasn't it? If we could have got the touch first, it probably would have went in the back of the net. But 2-0 would probably have been a fair half-time score, because I didn't think Colchester offered much first half.
Yeah. Well, the next nearest we got, basically, was, I think, McCalmont had a shot over the bar that was from the edge of the box after a nice run from Moxon, but beyond that, that was pretty much it for the first half. Second half was a little bit busy. I mean, Patrick had a chance from distance that was well saved, and Matt J had a couple, I think, for Exeter, one where he put it over the bar from the edge of the box. And the best chance they had, though, was a lovely lofted ball from Jay to the far post, looking for a Kinde who came on as a sub. And tell you what, he's put on a bit of beef, hasn't he? Since the last time I saw him.
He's a big lad.
I can see why he doesn't start games, because I imagine he's not mobile enough to be playing a full 90, is he? And the Kinde couldn't quite reach it, and Kwesi Apaya slid in, and I don't think he ever could have got more on it, really, couldn't he? Put it into the side netting. And that kind of felt like a little bit of a wake-up call for us at this point. And this was when Simmo brought on Jordan Gibson, and he created a couple of really good chances for us. So he basically, there was one great run down the right. He played a cross in, and Gordon took a nice touch, and his shot on the turn went wide. And then the best chance of the lot was Moxon wins the ball. And you know what? When you watch the video back, it sits up lovely for him to hit a volley. And I'm a bit disappointed he didn't. He should have just hit it and just had a go. But he played it into Gibson. Gibson took a touch and hit a volley that was going well wide, but it went straight at Christian Dennis, who I thought did brilliantly to take the touch and hit it on the swivel. But by doing that, there was always the risk that this was going to happen, and he blasted it over the bar, didn't he?
Yeah.
It's one of those ones, isn't it? You look at it and think it's a dreadful miss, but at the same time, he had to take it quickly because the defenders closing in. And if he doesn't, if he hit the target and scored, you'd say what a brilliant bit of play from him to turn and hit into the back of the net. So sort of totally gilt edge. Well, I suppose he is a gilt edge chance, really, isn't it? But there you go. And I think other than that, there was a shot very late on from Matt J that deflected just wide of goal. But beyond that, that's really it, isn't it? Really, it was a nice quiet afternoon for Tomas Holy, who have got us a talking point in a minute. But overall, come the end of the game, you thought, that was a fair result, didn't you?
Yeah. Like I say, it was a great reply from the squad to the mauling against Mansfield. The clean sheet was a big plus. A good, hard-working win, which sets us up in good stead for the trip to Crawley.
Absolutely. Right, we've got a 6-second review, and it's not one of us this time, is it? It's our regular correspondent, young Craig Robson from the Paddock. So here's his views for the Colchester win.
A great, well-deserved 3 points after a run of unfortunate events. So the first half was full of chances, although mostly for us. That included a vital mistake from the Colchester defender that led to midfielder Alfie McCalmont picking up on the mistake and calmly pulling it past the goalkeeper to make it 1-0. Later in the half, John Mellish somehow missing an amazingly clear-cut chance. I still don't know how. Going in the break 1-0 was both a great thing and a disappointing thing, considering I thought we could be 2 or 3-0 up. In the second half, it was a lot of passing and losing possession until Christian Dennis missed an unbelievable chance and puts it over the bar from 6 yards out. Very unlike him. The game after that was mainly dominated by us, but we never challenged their goal. Colchester didn't manage a shot on goal thanks to an improved game and goal for Holy and a real return to form from Feeney. Playing like a captain should. Was great to see Ellis back from injury too. The game finished 1-0 with Northampton losing 2-1. Just 5 points off first and 2 points off second. We can't, can we? Up the Blues.
Hey, it's like a young future John Motton there, isn't he? We had to give John Motty a mention there. Obviously, sad news by him.
Sad news today on the heels of Dickie Davis earlier in the week.
Indeed, yeah, some two real sports broadcasting greats, weren't they? And if you go on our Twitter feed as well, actually, you'll see I've put a link up to the Motty's commentary on our 3-1 win at Manchester City in February 1985. It was actually the first Carl United game played after I was born, actually. Funny enough, it's a bit of a weird one, isn't it? But there you go. Fair assessment, I think, from Craig. I think he's doing Dennis a little bit of a discredit there, saying it's 6 yards out from the chance, because I think it was nearer to 12 or 14, wasn't it, really? It was a little bit further out, but he's probably right. He probably should have took it, really, shouldn't he? But there you go. Some talking points on this one then, Dan. Obviously, I
was going to say the first one we should probably do is one that Craig mentioned, and that's Tomas Holy.
Yeah, well, let's start with that one. The Holy Goal. Let's start with him. I mean, he's had a bit of stick lately, and we've always stuck up for him a bit on here. But I actually thought that it was a really impressive performance from him in this one, in terms of the way he commanded his area, he handled everything. And Simmo did make a point after the game, didn't he? He said he'd had a word with him saying, you know, not saying it, but he said, like, I hadn't really said to Thomas he's playing badly, but you need to be doing more. You can do more. You can come and command your area better, and he did, and he came and claimed pretty much every cross. He took the sting out of it so many times, and that makes a big difference to the defence, doesn't it? You can see the confidence in them.
Yeah, a defence always, takes confidence from how the keeper's performing, and he was really back on song. And another thing Craig mentioned, Feeney didn't have the best of games against Mansfield. He looked a completely different player, didn't he?
Yeah, I mean, you're right then. And even I said after the Mansfield game that, Feeney probably couldn't grumble if he was dropped for this game, because he didn't have a great game against Colchester. But, yeah, fair play to him. Like you say, he came back with a really impressive performance in this one. It should be noted that Holy did have one little wobble at the very end, didn't he, where he came. And actually, when you look back at it, it's actually not bad goalkeeping. He palmed it away to safety to another defender, didn't he, really? So we'll let him off with that one, but there you go. Got to mention, that's his 13th clean sheet of the season in the league. Can he catch Kieran Westwood's record, do you reckon? Kieran Westwood got 18 in both the 06-07 and the 07-08 seasons. And it should be said, in the 07-08, he had 2 extra games to do it in, because that included the playoffs, but obviously he was 46 in the season before. So can he do it, do you reckon?
No reason why not.
I mean, we've got 14 league games left now, so you need to get another 6 in there, so that'll be a 50% average for clean sheets. If we defend like we did at the weekend in the remaining games, you'll get close to it, I'd imagine.
Definitely.
I think the next nearest was Paul Farman got 15 in his one season with us, so I think that's definitely catchable, isn't it? I think he can definitely get to that. I've got the other stats somewhere. I'll have to look them up later, but yeah, I think he's gone level with Mark Gillespie's record in 15-16. More about him later, maybe. Yeah. So yeah, no, great performance from Tomas, and really good to see. Alfie McCalmont, let's talk about him then. Obviously, you mentioned him before, but an impressive debut. I mean, he's played at this level before, so it's not new to him, is it? That's the thing. You get some loanies come in, and it's the first time they've done it. But for him, he looked like someone who's played at this level before, didn't he?
Yeah, I mean, I know when we signed him, we mentioned there's a big difference between most of the lads that come from under 21 football who haven't played, whereas he's played over 70 games for Oldham and Morecambe, in these leagues. So he knows what it's about. And I thought he looked like he'd been in the team for weeks.
Yeah, 100%. That's the thing that stands out. He slotted in really nicely, and actually, he's not the biggest, but he certainly doesn't get bullied off the ball. He copes with the physical side perfectly fine, and a performance like that, he could be in the team for quite a while, couldn't he? Really, the way he went about it.
Well, yeah, like I said earlier, Paul Simpson acknowledged that, he's took he's took the opportunity, and it'd be very harsh to drop him out. I think he will play on Saturday. No reason why not.
The one concern comes in 4 weeks' time. The games against Bradford and Gillingham, because that's the international window, isn't it? And
potentially,
he's a Northern Ireland international. If you get on this run of games, the Northern Ireland scouts might go, right, okay, let's get him back then, because I think Michael O'Neill, is he back in charge of Northern Ireland now?
He is, yes.
And I'm fairly sure he's the one who gave him his debut, so he may well be keeping an eye on him and seeing how he's doing. So that might be Jordan Gibson's chance to get back in. Well, let's talk about Jordan Gibson now, then, briefly, Dan. It'd be quite easy for him to have a little sulk, wouldn't it, and be not happy about being subbed on Tuesday and at half time and not then being dropped for this game. But I actually thought he turned the game at a time when Colchester were just starting to get a grip, didn't he, when he came on? He gave us a real outlet down that right. With Corey Whelan, actually, I should say as well. When he came on late on, he really helped too. He did really well at right wing back, and I've never been convinced about him in that role before. But yeah, I just thought Gibson, some really nice little touches, some good runs down the right, and that really helped take the pressure off, didn't it?
Yeah, definitely. That's exactly what you want your subs to do. And we currently, with our strength on the bench, we have players that we can bring on to do that. Devitt came on a couple of games and used his experience.
Yeah.
Gibson stretched the game on Saturday. If it's Patrick or Gordon who comes on, vice versa, we all know what their speed, and they can take the ball to the corners, etc. So
absolutely. So yeah, we want to see a bit more of that, and I'm sure he's going to have these moments in the remaining games. I'm sure he'll come back into the team at some point as well. I can see that definitely happening. But there you go. So I went to this game with my good mate Rob. You saw him before the game, Daniel. Rob from years ago.
Yeah.
His first game, funny enough, since the Colchester opening day draw last season. Weirdly enough, picked those two games. And I said to him afterwards or during the game that, who's been the best player? Who's impressed you? He picked up Morgan Feeney as someone who really impressed him as well. And he said, I couldn't disagree with the man of the match because Feeney was given it by the club. He said he was really impressed with him. He basically just gets rid of it, deals with it all the time. But the one he picked out, and a player he has seen before, so there might be a little bit of bias there in the terms of he knows about him and stuff, was Joe Garner. And he said straight away, you can see that he's a class act. You can see that he's got bags and years of experience, and just his nice little touches, the way he lays off the ball, the way he holds it up, the way he puts it into players, and the way he deals with the physical side of it. And I have to agree with him. I thought, even though he didn't score and he wasn't the goal scorer in a 1-0 win, I think he must have been a close contender to be man of the match in this one, surely.
Well, we all know what Joe Garner brings to a Carlisle team. He's all action. I quite like the way he gets at refs a bit, because we don't really have anyone who does that. And every time he's blown up for or against a foul, he's just chirruping at the ref. Not enough to get a booking.
Yeah.
He's quite coy with it. He just has a little word and trots off before the referee can sort of say, right, come on, 14, keep quiet, 41, sorry, keep quiet, And no, he will never not put a shift in, will he? He's Joe Garner. He's always done that. Yeah. And some days he won't get the reward for what he does, but the way we're playing, he's more likely to than not. And no.
And he's not sulky about it either. He's not sulky about when he gets taken off. He's not sulky about things not quite going for him or, not getting his goals. He just works hard. And you look back, it's 1 month on since we signed him, and there's some people had some doubts about it, wasn't there? There was a handful of people. I mean, surely their doubts have been relieved. Now you can see that he's still a quality player at this level, can't you?
Yeah.
I mean, there's no doubt about that. He even if we go up, he's going to be a good player at League One level as well. I can see it. And yeah, he's not going to start every week, but you shouldn't expect that from a player his age, really, should you? If you're starting 34-year-old players every week, then you've got a serious problem, haven't you? And I say it with the greatest respect to Christian Dennis as well. You know, if we're having to give him a full 90 minutes every week, there's a problem. Because you need younger people challenging him really as well. Any other talking points to come out of this? I thought Paul Huntington, I should say, was there's the WhoScored.com man of the match for this, 7.9 he got. He's our second best rated player on WhoScored.com over the season as well, just under overall 7 average for the season. I thought he had another really good game as well. And again, another one that Rob picked on, and you can see that you can see the little nudges and stuff like that and how clever he is. And
I think one thing now we've got in our squad, we're quite a young squad.
Yeah.
And we're at the other end of the spectrum. We've got up front Garner and at the back Huntington, who are, coming to the last couple of years of the careers, but their experience just stands out a mile, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
And it complements the youthfulness of those around them.
Yeah.
And those around will learn things from them. So...
Yeah. Absolutely, definitely. It makes a difference, definitely. And I feel, that's one other thing I wanted to talk about. I want to talk about the referee, Mr. Neil Hare. I mean, very appropriate name because he had the most early 90s haircut you'll ever see in your life, didn't he? This proper trying to think of how to describe it. It's just a sort of floppy mop, isn't it? It's kind of like
in spiral carpets-esque.
Yeah, in spiral carpets, Sean Ryder when he had longer hair.
The whole baggy scene, basically, from Manchester.
Basically, if you made Declan Rice's hair a bit
do you know what he reminded me of? That sketch on Soccer AM, where they all start dancing to the Manchester tunes.
Yes, absolutely.
It was like he was part of that collective, wasn't it?
Yeah, and I know that our regular contributor and listener, Greg Bullman, was telling me throughout the game how annoyed he was getting with him because he was smiling too much. So he was smirking every time he makes a decision. He drove me mad throughout the whole game. What I would say is, we didn't give a single yellow card out. Let the game flow.
Nice to see a referee enjoying his job.
Yeah, maybe that's what it was, Greg. Maybe light it up a little bit. But in all seriousness, he let the game flow, didn't he? And it makes a difference sometimes when you do that.
Yeah, definitely.
It never felt like it was a dirty game, but it was a good game of football. So that was nice to see, wasn't it? I guess in that sense. Beyond that, I think that's it. Really, just a really good result. I mean, quickly while we're at it, we'll have a quick chat about some of the League Two results last weekend. I mean, big one for us is Northampton. What a mess up from them to be. I can't remember if they were in the lead in that game or not, but they. In fact, I'm just loading it up now. So at the weekend. So they took the lead early on, conceded a goal 74, and then 90+1 to let one in against Grimsby. That's not great, that is it? I mean, Grimsby, to be fair, are a bit of a weird side this season, aren't they? They're getting some good results, obviously in the cup, especially.
Northampton are actually in this year, 2023. They've only won 2 of 8.
Yeah,
they've got 2-3-3, which is. It's a blip, but it's becoming slightly more than a blip.
Yeah, definitely. It's
a
strange one.
A blip is sort of like we had 3 games, no goals.
Yeah.
1 point. Theirs is on and off.
Yeah, it's not great for them, is it, I suppose? But great for us in that sense. Interestingly, on Grimsby, I note the fact that obviously we play them in the next home game, don't we, a week on Saturday. But they've got their big FA Cup tie a few days before that. So
I just saw that they've just sold just under 4,000 tickets for a trip to Southampton.
That's seriously impressive for a midweek trip to Southampton, whatever the situation. But yeah, so you do wonder, you'd hope that maybe, you're kind of hoping that game goes to extra time, aren't you, and gets dragged out or whatever, because I don't think there's replays in the 5th round now. So, tire them out a little bit. That's all we want. That's all we ask for.
Yeah.
In terms of the other sort of key results that affect us, Barrow winning 1-0 at Bradford City. I didn't see that coming in the slightest.
I've got a mate who's a Bradford fan, and I texted him just when I got home saying, "How have you lost to that lot?" And he was like, "We were criminally bad today." He said, "How we've lost it?" Yeah, he said, "For all the ball we had, we didn't have a shot." And I was like, he said it was just, it sounded similar to what Harrogate did to us.
Yeah, absolutely. There you go. Leighton Orient winning 1-0. It's go.
I was just going to say, I would probably say Stockport Stevenage was the big game.
That's the big one for us. I mean, because Leighton Orient winning 1. I mean, Leighton Orient are running away with it again now. Gone from
picked up again.
Yeah, figured they were going to run away with it, and then figured, we could rein them in.
Yeah.
And then we had our sticky run, and they just we're hitting top form again. So there you go. But yes, Stockport 2-0 win over Stevenage pulls them in just that little bit more. They've got a couple of games in hand, obviously, coming up soon.
Stevenage have had a terrible month. 2 draws and 2 defeats.
It kind of feels like their January transfer business. It kind of reminds me of us under Beach. In that go on.
They have got a couple of games in hand because of the cup, but they're going to have quite a run of fixtures to fit them in, I think.
Yeah, I think they've got a couple of them. I think one of them possibly coming up soon, I think. But yeah, it's kind of like you look at it, you think, I kind of look back to when we did that January transfer business under Beach, and we were all kind of like, oh, actually, this is quite good. It's not too bad. And actually, you look at it in hindsight, you think, actually, it wasn't that good. And we probably rocked the apple cart a little bit too much there, didn't we, really? Yeah. In terms of what we did. So you do wonder if maybe that's happened at Stevenage. But the other thing to take from that is Stockport County are coming up on the rails. They got a midweek win at Rochdale as well. So they're absolutely
won the last 5 this month. I would say they get manager of the month.
Oh,
as long as they don't get beat at Barrow on this week.
That or Mansfield Town, another one who just found a real rich vein of form. It kind of feels like at the moment, for those outside the playoffs, the places they're fighting for really are, well, probably 7th place, basically.
Yeah.
When you look at it.
I'm just looking at the table as we're talking, and you've probably got from Salford in 7th to Barrow in 12th. 5 points between 6 teams there.
Yeah.
And given the form of those above, I would suggest they're all going for... Mind you, you look at it, Bradford, a couple of games in hand, they win them. Yeah. They're right in the mix.
That's the thing, isn't it? I mean, Sutton are very incredible form as well. It's a really hard one to judge. I kind of feel like I'm pleased we built up our cushion when we did, because we'd be under a lot of pressure on if we didn't. And I know you say cushion, and teams can still sort of catch us, I suppose, in that sense. And if both Northampton and Mansfield win their games in hand, they're level on points. In Stockport are already 1 behind. And then obviously, if Bradford were to win their 2 games in hand,
one thing that sort of peeves me a little bit is how some fans get so attached to what other teams are doing.
Mm-hmm.
I think, as we are at the moment, just concentrate on ourselves, and it'll sort itself out. Only start looking at these teams when it comes down to the real crunch. If you like, if a win somewhere means you get promoted, by all means, keep an eye on the Stockport game or the Mansfield game or whatever. Yeah. But don't worry. We're still only in February. There's a third of the season to go. We're sat nicely.
Yeah, definitely. So like I said, and the run of fixtures we've got coming up in the next 2 at least. Anyway, you look at them. Crawley away and Grimsby at home. And even Swindon away, Swindon are not in great form. That's not a bad set of games to have coming up. You got a fancy chances.
No, not at all. When you look at the fixtures, 5 of the next 7 are away from home.
Yeah.
So we're only actually at home twice in March, the Grimsby and Stevenage games.
Yeah.
And then sort of April's where we get serious, because, we've got Orient away, Tranmere up here, Northampton up here, Stockport up here, Salford up here.
Momentum, isn't it? That's what we need at the moment. Yeah. Momentum. That's the key thing. Right, that's enough for the review section. We'll take a short break and back with the preview of the Crawley Town game.
Hi, I'm Paul Simpson from the football club. Welcome to the Brunton Bugle.
There you go. There's only one man to pick for that, wasn't there? For the half-time break this week, so there you go. Right, on to the Crawley Town preview. First up, though, Mike, he's not with us this week, but he's done us a question. So this is Mike's question of the week.
In 2016, the Blues got a 1-0 win away at Crawley, thanks to a Charlie White goal. Now, we had one player playing for us that day who went on to play in the Premier League. Who is it?
Ooh. Charlie White, 2016. That's a good question, isn't it?
I think I know who it is. I'm just trying to think of his name.
Who are you thinking of? What position? Or
I think it's a loanee.
I figured that
Jack Stacey.
Yes, I think you might be right with that. I think that
I'm sure he was 16, wasn't he?
I kind of feel like Jack Stacey would have been, if that's towards the end of the season, then yeah, that would make sense actually. Yeah, I reckon Jack Stacey.
Yeah.
Right, should we go with that? Then we'll not wait about with this one. Let's see if this is the answer.
And it is Jack Stacey.
Yes. Oh, well done, Dan. Good on that one. There you go. Nice little easy question for us this week. So there you go. Right, up first in the preview section, behind enemy lines. This week we spoke to Reuben from the Crawley Town Supporters Alliance. What we talk about, right? God, we could have sat and talked with him for hours probably about the problems at Crawley Town. We discussed the chaos of 4 managers in one season, their controversial January transfer activity, including the departure of a very popular player, and just what on earth is going on with their crypto bro owners. So here's the chat I had with Reuben. So for this week's Behind Enemy Line section, we're speaking to Reuben from the Crawley Town Supporters Alliance. And Reuben, I've just got to say, where do I start with this one? All the other clubs we speak to, there's usually one little talking point I can focus on, like a manager under pressure or something like that, or a new sign that's come in, made a big impact, that kind of thing. With you guys, there's so many topics. I mean, I don't know what the hell happened to your club in the last year, because at the start of the season, we spoke to Sam from your Supporters Alliance, and he was mildly optimistic. He was even talking about potentially pushing for top half or even top 7. I mean, we might have expected a bit of an unusual season under your new owners, but did you expect it to turn out the way it has?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I think I appeared on another podcast at the beginning of the season, and I think I predicted us to be potentially playoffs, if not automatic. How wrong was I? We're looking at the completely wrong end of the table at the moment, and it's quite scary being this low down in League 2.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of seasons, I don't want to be harsh here, but I quite often have predicted Crawley to struggle and be down near the bottom because your crowds aren't the biggest, and I always thought you'd maybe struggle. But you've always outperformed what I've expected, and I've always said, like, you become a decent League 2 side. And then that takeover happened towards the end of last season. The Crypto Bros, as I think most of the fans know them. I mean, can you sort of briefly surmise as much as possible what the issues have been, particularly in recent months with them?
Yeah, I mean, I think it started off, I think it was like 7 days within them taking over the club. The John Yem situation happened. And I think they're still kind of having to recover from that. I mean, they're expecting John Yems to manage into the season. Then they hired Kevin Betsy, and then he didn't turn out as expected. And then we had, I think it was then Lewis Young after that. And then he didn't have enough shots or whatever that stupid stat was. But yeah, it hasn't turned out too well for us. And it's hard to pin it down to one thing. I mean, the owners always are saying that it's down to the John Yem situation and then recovering from that, and lots of other kind of spanners being thrown into the works. But yeah, I think it's just we just struggled to be stable, and it feels like we're on a bit of a roller coaster journey at the moment.
Do you I can kind of grasp the point about the John Yems thing, in that that's not something they caused, that's something they inherited, and they could not have expected something like that to blow up within 7 days of taking over the club. But do you think they've probably underestimated a bit how difficult it actually is to run a football league club and be successful at this level, especially with, there's so many clubs who are so well backed? Do you think they thought, this is going to be a breeze, they've got all these ideas, all this crypto money they reckon they were going to bring in, and it's caught them out a little bit in that sense?
I think so. I think they've looked at the English League table and thought, League 2, that'll be easy. No one really knows about them. One of the people who own Wagme United said in a podcast that owning Crawley is a bit like owning your local high school your soccer team. And so if that's the level that they're thinking Crawley was at the beginning of the season, then it's quite concerning. Yeah. But yeah, I think they wanted to use this season as a kind of just as a season to get their head round everything that's been going on, and how like football works in England and stuff. But then they're saying with the John Yem situation, having to try out more stuff to become successful quicker.
Yeah, that's been the major challenge, I suppose. In terms of last summer, we'll talk about the various managers you've had this season in a minute, but you had a big signing in bringing in Dom Telford. And I think there was a kind of feeling among a lot of League Two fans of, one, it was a surprise he dropped down to you. With no disrespect, we thought League One clubs would probably be interested after such a good season in Newport. But then two, there was a feeling of, well, the fact that he has dropped down to you, he's not going to have as good a season as he had at Newport. I'm guessing he's been a bit of a disappointment, to say the least, considering he's probably on quite a big wage.
Yeah, I think he's on the highest wage in our club, probably one of the highest wages in League Two, to be honest. And yeah, he hasn't exactly been a standout player for us this season. I think he scored 6 goals so far. But I think the owners saw that, oh look, he was League Two's highest goal scorer last season, we'll bring him on and he'll do wonders for us. Almost a bit of a football manager type transfer.
It's kind of like, I think they're almost looking at it like from an NFL almost viewpoint. That over there you can often bring a great player and drop him into a team and he'll fit perfectly to your system. Whereas I feel like it's a little bit more complicated over here in the fact that Dom Telford probably worked particularly well in that Newport team, and the team was built around him. And Crawley, obviously, he's not going to be built in the same way, really, is it? You've got other players and they do different roles. Let's talk about the managers then. Kevin Betsy.
If you can keep count.
Yeah. Kevin Betsy, what went wrong there? Because, I mean, it seemed quite an interesting appointment happened. I think we all thought that's quite a decent, it was almost a bit of a coup because he was Arsenal's under-23 coach, wasn't he? And you thought, wow, to get someone in like that. And you moved away from sort of the managerial merry-go-round in that sense. But was it what was the big problem with him? Was it a case of him maybe trying to put some sort of philosophy into the team rather than worrying about results first? Because that's something that our manager Paul Simpson has actually said on Football Focus last weekend. He said that too often you've got these young managers coming in and they do these great presentations about what philosophy they're going to have, but if you don't get initial results, what's the point?
Yeah, I think that he was wanting to install a philosophy and almost have Premier League style football at League 2 level. For a lot of Crawley fans, when they found out about Kevin Betsy, I think a lot of us were disappointed. We've tried to have a young up-and-coming manager or a youth manager come to Crawley as their first kind of main job. I mean, we had Harry Kewell, we had Dermot Drummy, I think we've had one or two others as well. So I think a lot of Crawley fans were kind of expecting it not to turn out too well. Of course, we wanted him to succeed, but I don't think we were too surprised that it didn't work out for him.
Yeah. Got rid of him. You initially put Lewis Young in caretaker charge. He did a fairly good job, got a few decent results and seemed to be well back. As someone obviously you already knew the squad, seemed the perfect person, at least till the end of the season, to take over. And then out of nowhere, Everton and Davis turn up. I mean, and what a shambles that turned out to be. Was there a feeling on the fan base of that was a cock up there and they should have given it to Young?
Yeah, I think so. I think one of our owners put a tweet out saying that he could have been wrong with sacking Young. And yeah, I think although we might have been outshot or we might not have won every single match, 2 of those games were against Burnley in the Cup and then Accrington Stanley where we lost 4-0. But then for our League 2 matches, which are by far the most important matches, we actually did right under Lewis. I mean, you could argue that Lewis was still quite close with a lot of the players, and so it might not have been, discipline-wise, might not have been the best, because he was still quite pally with the players. But I still think he should have been given a job at least to the end of the season, given the transfer window, just to see what he could do.
Yeah, it seemed quite a strange all the time. As you mentioned there, I mean, stats can be manipulated to say whatever you want, don't they? Because, I mean, looking at us this season at Carlisle, we've been outpassed in a lot of games, and quite often our passing completion percentage is lower than the opposition. But as Simmo says, we don't mess about with in defence. We just get rid a lot of the time, and then we play the football in the opposition half where you can affect teams. So it just goes to show, doesn't it? I mean, there was a feeling with Everton and Davies' thing. One, you've gone from one person who was inexperienced working as a coach to another person, or a pair, I suppose, in that sense. And they felt it was a little bit bad taste. One of the things your owner said, didn't they, about the fact that one of the reasons they went for Everton was because of his history of gambling problems and feeling like he's someone who would take a risk, potentially. Which was, I thought was astonishing when I read that.
I think a lot of Crawley fans as well. And I think if we go back to the young sacking, I think some of us were then expecting him. Oh, we're going to hire an experienced manager now. So I feel like that was a kind of a second sucker punch when we heard that it was Etherington who were going to be signing. Yeah.
Obviously, you've now moved on and you've got Scott Lindsay in as your manager. Yeah. I think most people would probably look at from the outside, maybe people who aren't following League Two so closely, would go, wow, you persuaded a coach from a playoff-chasing side in your division to move to you when you're down near the bottom. Is there an underlying feeling, though, of why on earth has he come to us almost? Why has he walked out on Swindon in a fairly decent position to come and take charge of what is going to be a relegation dogfight till the end of the campaign?
Yeah, I think so. Because, even with, say, when we had the new owners, why would they come to a club like Crawley Town? Because that just seems a bit strange. There's something kind of underlying going on. But I mean, if you look at the form for Swindon when Lindsay was about to go, they had the pretty poor run of form. Yeah. And so whether he was going to be sacked anyways, we don't really know. But actually, Swindon's form is still kind of carried on since he left.
Yeah, definitely. Well, let's talk about your January transfer activity. Got to talk about the most controversial move first of all. Tom Nichols to Gillingham, because I'll be honest with you, we've on our pod we've been saying for the last few seasons, he's one of those players he probably would never move this far north, but we'd love to see him at Carlisle. We thought every time he's played against us, he looks such a tidy player, uses the ball so well. He's not going to score you 20 goals a season, but he's going to set your hell up for a lot up, and his link play so good. I mean, to sell him to a relegation rival just seemed baffling.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think it goes back to the signing of Dom Telford, that the owners saw that they were in a situation where they could only keep one of them, and it would have been easier to get rid of Tom Nichols compared to Dom Telford because of the wage that Nichols was on. It's just it hurts that he's gone to a relegation rival, and since he's signed for them, he's probably scored the most goals, and it's half the reason that they're now kind of heading up towards the top end of the table.
I mean, to be fair, it wouldn't take him much to be the top goal scorer at Gillingham this season, would it, with the first half of the season they had.
That's very true.
Yeah, I mean, looking through the rest of your business, I suppose the other two that stand to me, I mean, Glenn Morris leaving has been, I think he's a little bit of a club legend with you guys, isn't he? I know he's getting on now, but again, going to Gillingham, I know he's been on loan there, but again, him going out at the start of the season was a bit of an odd one. And looking at the other end, Ben Gladwin seems to be a good addition, actually, to be fair. That's one that seems to be a smart move.
Yeah, definitely. And from what we've seen of him, he seems to fit in quite well. And he's been made club captain already. And I think he kind of expects high standards from the people he plays with. It's just a shame that he's out injured. Not entirely sure how long he's out injured for, so whether he might miss the Carlisle match, I'm not entirely sure.
Yeah, and obviously in terms of Morris, it was just I think it's one of those ones where I suppose the owners were looking to move older players on, I guess.
Yeah, but I think so. I think they did offer Morris a coaching role. But Morris wanted to carry on, and you can see from looking at Gillingham's results how good of a goalkeeper he is, even at the age of 38 now. Yeah,
he's not getting any younger, but he's still a decent stopper at this level. And I mean, because I think he went just before the opening game of the season, didn't he, against us?
Yeah, he did.
And you had two goalkeepers in nets. Well, two different keepers you used on that opening day. And I thought both of them were awful, actually. It was a weird one, but I wasn't impressed with either of them, to be fair. So yeah, it seemed a bit of an odd one. Got to ask you about someone who's played for both clubs, currently playing with you, Ashley Nelson. How's he getting on? I think he was injured recently, wasn't he? Is he still injured, or is he close to recovery?
Yes. So he was injured, but he's starting to come back. I think he was on the bench for our last game.
Yeah.
and they're starting to play him a bit more now. He's one of them. He can either be amazing on his day, or he can, not be too good of a player, and actually much rather him be on the bench. And I mean, when his pace is one of his strengths, and when you can utilise that, then it works well. So there's a lot of reliance on ensuring that the ball actually gets in front of him so he can run onto it. So it's not been the best season for him. It'd be quite good to be able to pair Nadzan with Tom Delford, and I think if they do start to click, then they could be a force to be reckoned with.
Yeah, he's one Addison when he had 2 loan spells with us. Effectively did a whole season with us, but did it over 2 seasons. And he was quite a fan's favourite, actually, to be fair. You know, he certainly works hard. You know that. You know, you run all day, as you say, and he's one of those ones. There was talk that we were going to either score him permanently or get him on a deal to the end of the season when we had him that second half of season loan. But unfortunately, Fleetwood, for whatever reason, wouldn't let him stay, and then obviously in the end, he ended up leaving them in the summer and going back to you guys, obviously moving closer to home.
Yeah, definitely.
So yes, he's clearly happier down there. Well, I'll quickly wrap up with a couple more questions, Reuben. First of all, straight to the point, can you avoid the drop? I mean, I'm looking at it. You've got games in hand, which is a positive. I suppose people will always say you'd rather have the points in the bank than games in hand. But when you look with Gillingham and Colchester improving so much, and I'm putting a caveat on the Colchester one because as we record an hour or so ago, Matt Bloomfield has left them to go back to Wickham to become their new manager. So how that'll affect them, I don't know yet. But with them improving so much, it does seem like you're in a battle with basically Hartlepool and Harrogate for that second spot alongside Rochdale, who look, dead and gone almost.
Yeah. I mean, as we speak right now, tonight's the match for Hartlepool against Newport, I think. And so that's a big match for us. And although we do have games in hand, we haven't won an away match since April 22, I think. So if all of our matches were at home, then I'd like to say that we would beat the drop. But yeah, our away form isn't the best right now. It's going to be a struggle. We have started playing a little bit better under Lindsay. If we were able to, I think when it comes to the second half, if all the matches were just based on the second half, we'd be bottom of the table. So we just need to kind of ensure that our levels are consistent throughout the whole match. Then I think we will be able to start looking away from the relegation zone.
Yeah, and we talked about additions and and players who've gone and stuff like that. But in terms of your squad, who are the danger men to watch out for this weekend for Carlisle fans?
Yeah, so I think Kellen Gordon, he's been really good for us since he's joined in the summer. In January. He likes to be able to run up the wing and put some good crosses in. And I think whilst Dom Telford hasn't necessarily had the best season overall over the part since January, he has started scoring. And I think if he does get the balls to him, then he can score. So I think he could potentially be on the score sheets on Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, Telford seems a very obvious one. It's interesting you mentioned Callum Gordon because we spoke to the Colchester pod last week because we played them, and they weren't particularly big fans of his. They didn't. Oh no, sorry, not the Colchester one. The Mansfield podcast. I do apologise. I don't know why I thought he came from Colchester, but yeah, the Mansfield podcast were a little bit disparaging of him. So it's interesting. It shows some players fit at some clubs, don't they? So
yeah, definitely.
That's just the way it is sometimes. Reuben, you've been very kind with your time. Just to finish up, can we have a prediction for this weekend's game?
I'm going to say 1-1.
Okay. I mean, our form's a little bit iffy at the moment, so they're probably not the worst guess in the world, I guess, but we'll see how it goes. Reuben, thanks for all your time again, and all the best for the rest of the season after this weekend.
Cheers, thank you.
Yeah, thanks once again to Reuben for giving up his time to speak to us. Not great times down the Broadfield Stadium, is it, at the moment, for Crawley fans?
Crawley are never going to be the biggest club in the league, but the proper fans, the likes of Reuben and that, you genuinely feel for them because these owners are just barmy.
Yeah.
I mean, They're forever etched in Carlisle fans for that start of the season video.
I mean, what on
which
earth
was
are they
the
thinking
stuff
of?
of legend, that.
I mean, I still can't quite grasp what was going through their heads when they thought this would be a good idea.
Yeah.
It's mental, isn't it, when you look back at it?
Yeah.
But there you go. Yeah, so basically, yeah, Crawley Town this weekend at the Broadfield Stadium, as I mentioned there. Interesting. I thought that one of the first things they would have done would have got some weird crypto sponsorship for the name for the ground, but they lost the sponsorship name at the end of last season. They haven't got a new one yet. Although, did you see the new sponsorship name for the Bolton Wanderers Stadium, Dan?
Yeah, if that is someone at this company is a marketing genius.
The Tough Sheet Stadium, incredible.
Brilliant.
They always say though that sponsorship stadium deals, the first one is always the best deal you're ever going to get because that's the one that people always remember.
Yeah.
Who's going to call the Bolton Wanderers Stadium the Tough Sheet Stadium? It's the Reebok.
Yeah,
it's all everyone ever calls
always has been. Always will be.
Arsenal can't change from the Emirates anytime soon because people just say, "Oh, I'm going down the Emirates." That's what people say, isn't it? It sticks in your head, so it's a tough one, that one. Right, referee for this weekend's game is Paul Howard from London. It's his first season as an EFL referee. He's taken charge of 15 games so far this season, handing out 34 yellow and 3 red cards. Last season, he handed out 95 yellow and 5 red cards in 29 games. And the last United game he took charge of was an absolute thriller. It was the 0-0 draw at Port Vale at the start of last season. 2 United players were booked that night, Abrahams and Dickinson. I remember that game because that was Brad Young's debut, coming on as a sub. And I thought he looked quite lively. Never judge your debut, really, should you? You should take your time and actually see how good they are. Head-to-head record. It's a 22nd meeting between the two sides. That's a lot. It didn't really occur to me the fact that, we've consistently played against them for pretty much the last decade, haven't we?
Yeah.
They came down with us. So, yeah, of course we've played them that many times. We've got a very good record against them, haven't we? I think it's fair to say.
Yeah.
11 wins, 7 draws and 3 defeats. Can't grumble about that at all. Crawley Town then, Dan. Looking at the squad, I mean, I've when I send out the running order to you, I've got a nice little template I've done from the start of the season when we did the pre-season previews that I just copy in. And what I do then is I add in the January transfers and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Their transfer activity over the season's mental, isn't it?
Barmy.
I can't even count the number here off the top of my head. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I mean, it's into the 20 plus in total. That's not a way to run a football club, is it? As we've seen in the past.
Well, like we've said many times, most squads have high turnover these days. 1-year deals. Yeah. Mr. Holdworth's dream strategy, a commonplace, but Crawley's was massive.
Yeah.
They actually didn't let that many go. I mean, there was 3 of them got moves, and I think another half a dozen released. But I think they brought in about 15 plus in the summer, which is a lot.
Should say, I think there's a few loan players who've gone back.
Yeah.
There's also, I think, a few players who actually left since signing. I mean, they signed.
They brought 7 loan players in. You can only put 5 on a team sheet.
I think the problem was they had some extra goalkeepers in, didn't they? As we saw, remember the opening day, they sent Glenn Morris out on loan to Gillingham before the first game. Experienced goalkeeper, many, many years, 37, 38 now. And they brought in, there was a lad from Brentford, was it, I think, who made his debut in that game in the first half, and he was absolutely shocking. He kept shanking the ball out of play on goal kicks, and he just did not look good at all. And they were trying to play it out from the back as well. And then they brought another lone goalkeeper on at half-time in that game. So, it's a ridiculous way to be running it. Looking at it, though, in terms of the January arrivals they've had, not the worst business in the world. Some of them, I think Jack Rolls is meant to be quite well thought of at Woking, wasn't he, I think? On top of that, they've got Ryan Schofield, the goalkeeper on loan from Huddersfield, so it's been a real problem area for them this season, goalkeeper. Kellen Gordon from Mansfield Town. Mansfield's fan that we spoke to the other day, he was quite disparaging of him, so he didn't really rate him, but he's apparently doing well.
We'll cut to the chase here on this squad. When you look at it, who stands out?
Telford and Gladwin, basically, the two that really stand out straight away.
Ashley Addison, obviously, as the ex-player.
Yeah, Ashley Addison, we know him, but...
Yeah. But that is pretty much it. I mean, normally, most squads, there's at least 3 or 4, usually half a dozen that you're like, oh, yeah, he's a decent player at this level. Yeah, he's a good signing. You can't say that about much of these.
No. Like I said, Telford's the one who said that, but we know him because he's the top scorer. He was the top scorer last season in division. Gladwin's a very good player at this level, although he's already injured, apparently. He's been made club captain already, only signed in January. And then maybe Joel Lynch in defence. He's an experienced defender.
Yeah.
And that's it, maybe 3. You'd add Addison in, but we only know him because he played on loan with us.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you probably wouldn't pay that much attention to it. It's
the one that does stand out, but purely on his name, is Ludwig Francelet. What a name!
I was going to say so. There can't have been many Ludwigs that have played in the Football League.
No,
incredible.
He's from Guadeloupe.
Oh wow!
Which is it's the French territory, Guadeloupe, isn't it?
Yeah, but Ludwig's a German name, isn't it? It's a bit of a weird one.
Yeah.
Because we've had a player who came from Guadeloupe, haven't we? Who was that?
Was it not the left back from Cardiff?
Oh, Dominguez. I think it might have been him, actually. I'm not 100% on that. You can look that up while we're talking.
Yeah, I'm just doing it now.
But yeah, I mean, I agree with you.
Yes. Cummings was a Guadeloupean.
Thought he was. There you go. Maybe Jack Powell as well at a push. I've seen him score a few free kicks on telling stuff. But you're right. As a squad, especially in attack, I look at it and think, outside of Telford and Addison, I think has had a few injury issues this season. Outside of Telford, I'm not really sold on the attacking options for them either. And Telford's a weird one, obviously. So he signed for them in the summer. From Newport, having turned down a new deal there. And I think the feeling was when he left Newport, because he finished as League 2 top scorer, that he'd probably go to like a League 1 club, wouldn't he, maybe, and take his big chance of some money there.
I think it's fair to say there was surprise when he went to Crawley.
Yeah, especially because if you'd have thought, all right, if he's not going to go there, maybe he'll go to one of the bigger clubs. Maybe go to like a Northampton Town in our division or someone like that, a club that's going for promotion. And he signs for Crawley, and you're like, wow, what's going on here? And then you hear about this contract, and you start to understand maybe why he's gone there. He's allegedly on one of the best players in the division, by all accounts, which, you'd expect for someone who's top scorer last season. But he gets a bonus for winning the ball back in the opposition area. Opposition half, sorry.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just like, I get you want to do some...
Was Keith Curl his agent?
That's what the first thing I thought when I heard that. It's mad, isn't it?
More on Keith later.
Oh, yes. Oh, you cannot wait for that bit, can you? You've been looking forward to that all day.
No comments?
Yeah, I mean, it was a big risk to put so much money for a club which gets such small attendances and is probably looking for a mid-table finish in League 2, to put that much behind what is effectively a one-season wonder at that point. That's a huge risk to take, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't grasp why they'd do that. Yeah, in terms of other stuff, manager-wise, like we said, they're on to their 4th manager of the season, Scott Lindsay, his current boss. Start out with Kevin Betsy. I thought when he was appointed, my first thought was that's quite a smart, interesting appointment, that. Someone who's done very well as an under-23 coach by all accounts at Arsenal as well. I think his problem was, as Simmo always says with these things, it's all right having a philosophy you want to impose on a team, but if you don't get results, what's the point?
League 2 is often a harsh reality for people from that sphere, isn't it?
Definitely.
We've seen it on the pitch. We've seen it on the pitch many times.
I kind of feel like League 1's a much better place to be doing that. I don't know why, but maybe because you get the better quality of loan players from the Premier League, possibly.
Yeah.
I don't know. So yeah, that was a bit of an eye-opener for him. Now, when he went, Lewis Young got the job as caretaker. Colour fans may remember Lewis Young had a brief trial spell with us, didn't he? Was that under Curl, possibly?
Possibly, yeah.
I can't remember exactly when it was, but it was a while back. So he took over briefly as caretaker, got a few good results for them. And then the owners decided, apparently because they didn't have enough shots on target in some of the games or something, they got outshot, I think, in a couple of the games, that they wouldn't stick with him. Now, note, as Reuben said to us, a couple of those games were against Accrington and Burnley in cup competitions. So, what you've expected him to do in those. And they went with another inexperienced pair, Matt Everington and Simon Davis, who older fans may remember being the pair of players who left Peterborough at the age of like 16, didn't they? Having to go to Spurs for like £1 million each or something like that. They very quickly realised what they've got themselves into, didn't they? Everington and Davis. And lo and behold, not long after, they resigned. I think, 7 games in or something like that? Which left them looking for their fourth manager season. I should actually say that Darren Byfield took charge of a couple of games, didn't he, I think? So the man they went for permanently, Dan, Scott Lindsay from Swindon Town. Just a weird move from him. I mean, the rumour was that he was possibly going to be getting sacked by Swindon soon anyway. So Crawley being daft enough to pay compensation for him, he's probably thinking, great, this is a chance to get a move somewhere and, sort myself out on a longer deal somewhere else. It just felt like a bit of like a, okay, what's going on here? Experienced in one sense, but not really. He's been caretaker a couple of times at clubs. He's took over from Ben Garner in the summer. It hasn't really worked out quite as well as they'd hoped, probably. So, yeah, a bit of an odd one, to say the least. Looking at them in the table, Dan, they're currently second bottom, just ahead of Rochdale. I wouldn't say just ahead, they're 5 points clear of Rochdale. 1 point behind Hartlepool and 4 points behind Gillingham. They have got 4 games in hand on Hartlepool. But then there comes the problem, and it's the old adage, isn't it? You'd rather have the points in the bag than have those games in hand, wouldn't you? Do you feel like they're basically in a bum fight with... let's presume Gillingham, I feel like they're going to pull away eventually. They've had to come from a very low base, so they've got themselves to a position now where actually a couple more results and they look not home and dry, but they look much better. In a similar position to where Colchester are right now.
Sadly, I think Rochdale are doomed.
I think Rochdale are knackered. I think that result in midweek...
Yeah. They're already 2 wins behind Hartlepool. They've played more games than everyone. Yeah,
they're in trouble. Do you think it's a fight between Crawley, Hartlepool and Harrogate for the other place?
Potentially, yes.
Harrogate got games in hand as well, but I kind of feel like Crewe upwards teams are generally going to be safe, aren't they? I mean, Newport pulled themselves away, haven't they, with some good results as well. So,
I mean, I've just said this on the Warwick forum. It would be a shame for Northern football if we lost Rochdale and Hartlepool.
Yeah.
Regardless of what league we're in next season, it's 2 proper away days. It would be a shame.
Yeah. Obviously, potentially replace them in Notts County and Wrexham, I suppose. It's not too long away journeys. I know Notts is but easy enough to get to, most of them, aren't they? So there you go. Going into this game from a United viewpoint, then, Dan, it's 3 points. It's got to be 3 points, hasn't it?
Yeah, we've got to be aiming 3 points here. Like I've already said, 5 of the next 7 are away. I would imagine Paul Simpson and his team. You look at fixtures, and you would hope for 3 points at a Crawley, whereas maybe Bradford away, you'd be happy with a point, if that makes sense.
Yeah, because you're restricting them as well as much as anything. That's the key thing with that. Yeah, I
don't get us wrong. Don't get us wrong. 3 points will be brilliant, but you've got to sort of pick and choose. Where's more likely. Yeah,
they've only won 1 of the last 6, Crawley. I'm not sure how far back that goes with the rest of the film, but yeah, you've got to imagine that they're there for the picking out, and they're going to be desperate to get a result because, like you said, as much as they've got these games in hand, the games in hand are no use if you basically then go and to get results from them, don't they? I mean, I've just loaded up the last 10 games form table just to see how things are. Funny enough, we're 3rd in the last 10 games form table, just behind Sutton, who are top.
Sutton are flying on the slide.
Yeah, it's very unusual, that one, isn't it? And then Stockport.
It could be an interesting last game of the season if Sutton's run continues and they're trying to edge into the playoffs.
Definitely.
And we're trying to go up.
Okay, looking at they've won 1 of their last 9, Crawley, and that was against Salford, and they won 3-2. And I think that was a bit of a bizarre game, that one.
Yeah, similar to our Mansfield type game, I'd say.
Yeah, very, very odd one, that one. So yeah, we've got to be going for 3 points. In terms of the team selection, Dan, Do you stick with the team that beat Colchester? Or do you maybe switch the strikers again? Or
I would think it'll maybe only be up front where we maybe get a little switch round. Maybe
Yeah.
Dennis will start. Maybe it'd be nice to see Dennis and Patrick start again.
yeah, see how they get on.
Mix it up a little.
Yeah, a little 1 year on from them playing together at Orient, maybe see how it goes on. I'm with. I personally, I think I'd stick with exactly the same 11. I don't think I'd change it. I think for once I'd say, right, I'm gonna stick with you guys. Next week I might mix up the strikers again, but you're gonna get a second game. Let's see how you do, basically, and potentially bring Dennis on when their defence is tiring late on, and maybe see if he can get a goal as well. So I think that's the best way to look at it potentially. Just in terms of injuries, just a little update there. Simmo did an update, didn't he? Slight little setback for Ben Barkley apparently today. So he probably won't be ready for this week, and certainly won't be ready probably for next week as well by the looks of things, which is a real shame. But he just can't get any luck, can he? I don't know what it is. It's just ridiculous. But there you go. It sounds like Jamie Devitt will potentially be back for the Swindon game, which is really good. Getting back nice and early. Long-term injuries, we're still waiting on them. I think Edmondson and probably back just before Charters.
Edmondson is a couple of weeks less than you have on the notes. I was speaking to him in the car park midweek last week, and he said 3 weeks. So that's now 2 weeks.
Oh, so that would have him back for the Stevenage game, wouldn't it? I think actually. Forgot that right. If you're not taking any risks, wow, that'd be nice to get him back a week early, wouldn't it? That'd be really good. But I think the really big bit of news that came out today was a really nice thing to hear is that Josh Dixon, he's back in full contact training, isn't he? As of this week on Friday, which you talk about players being unlucky with injuries. I don't think I've ever come across a player as unlucky as Josh Dixon. To have 3 ACL injuries in the space of 3 years was it or something like that is just
ridiculous, isn't it?
You don't see it that often, and I just hope it's not a problem because I think it's been on both knees as well, isn't it? I don't think it's been one.
Yeah, I think it's 2 and 1, isn't it? I think.
Yeah, so hopefully he's fully recovered now. Because I mean, at the end of the day, in the run-in, we potentially, we're going to need potentially in some of these games because we haven't got the biggest squad in the world. He might find himself on the bench at some point. So, you never know if he'll feature. I imagine there's probably others ahead of him, but, it'd be nice. Simmo did actually say that in the prepping for Crawley that he wanted him involved because Crawley have got a particular left-footed player in their team. So when they do the matching up training, he wanted him to be in there. So, he had a good example of someone. So that's good to see him involved in terms of that sense as well, isn't it? So there you go. Right, predictions time, Dan. We're still no better off in terms of points. None of us went for Alfie McCalmont as a goal scorer in a 1-0 win, so nothing changed there. You're still leading on 20, I'm on 19, and Mike is lagging behind on 14. So what are you going to go for this weekend?
A solid, straightforward 2-0 win.
Goal scorers.
Getting tricky with goal scorers because you're never quite sure which strikers are going to start. Yeah. I'm going to gamble on Garner and then Dennis coming off the bench to make it 2-0.
Okay. You can go for those two, right?
Not long after he comes on type thing.
Okay, I'm going to go for 3-0 then. I'm going to be more ambitious. 3-0. Amari Patrick, Christian Dennis, and Owen Moxon's due a goal. He hasn't had one for a while, has he? So the one thing he really needs to add to his game, because other than that, he's pretty much perfect, isn't he? Right, let's have Mike's predictions.
And I'm going to go for a 2-0 win with goals from Joe Garner and Paul Huntington.
I thought he was going to say exactly the same as you there.
I know.
I was thinking, we're going to have a little fix here. But there you go. Right, that's all that bit done. It's time to wrap things up with the X-Files section down. Plenty to cover this week.
Yeah, we'll go at the weekend first. Mackie Wells scored a penalty in Bristol City's 1-1 draw at Sunderland. Quite a late one, this.
It was a late one, and I saw a tweet about it. Apparently, it was their first penalty they've been given in something like 486 days, I think it was.
Wow.
Because their admin was like, this is not a
drill type thing.
We've got a penalty. So there you go. Yeah. Did you see this game? Sorry, I was going to say, did you see this penalty? penalty. Did you see in this game Luke O'Neill, his attempt to stop a counter-attack by one of the Bristol City players?
Yeah.
So basically he tried to pull the lad back, but he grabbed him so much, the lad basically kept going and he pulled him up onto his back and gave him a piggyback. And, most novel booking I've seen this year.
Bristol City have been on quite a good run recently, and George Tanner is played regularly at right back as part of that run.
Brilliant, good to see.
James Tavernier, regular, scored 2 in Rangers 3-0 win at Livingston. Brilliant free kick and a penalty. Penalty to Rangers is the usual cry. Elliot Watts scored. Unfortunately, it was in his own net. Salford City's 2-1 home defeat to Swindon. That was probably a game they expected to win. With a strange team still, Salford. Really are.
Yeah, I mean, did you see that state their pitch, though? I mean, I thought it was bad when we played them in November. I'm not being funny, but I've seen National League. It's not National League, even. I've seen teams at Workington's level better pitches than that. It's a disgrace how that's allowed in the Football League.
Former youth player Ben Richards Everton scored on his debut for Scunthorpe in a 3-2 win over Dagenham. Obviously, we were going to mention him in the transfers, but we don't need to now. Cameron Salkeld scored his first goal for his new club, Clyde, in a 1-0 win over Peterhead.
Yeah, we thought he was off the Dundalk, didn't we? He never went through that deal in the end, so there you go.
Callum Higginbottom scored twice, one of them a penalty for Kelty in a 3-0 win over the Doonhamers, Queen of the South. And Connor Tinian scored in Workington's 3-1 win at Runcorn Linnets. Midweek, a couple of names we haven't seen for a while. Connor Townsend scored for West Brom in the 3-2 defeat to Watford. Former loanee Micah Obiero scored in Wealdstone's 1-1 draw at Chesterfield. That's a decent result, that.
Yeah, he's chipped in a few goals this season as well, isn't he? Obiero, to be fair.
He's one we haven't heard for a while. Angelo Balanta.
Yes.
Scored for Dagenham in a 2-1 win over Aldershot.
Yep.
And a red card for Nathaniel Knight Percival. He was sent off in Kidderminster's 1-0 defeat at Chorley.
Come on then, let's have your favourite one.
We've got a bit of other news. Hartlepool have got rid of some bloke called Keith Curl.
You enjoyed that, didn't you? Come on.
I feel sorry for Colin West because he's lost his job.
Yes.
Nice bloke, Colin. The Massive Telly is leaving South Wales. Darren Kelly has departed from his sporting director role at Newport. We've already mentioned him, but James Tavernier was inducted into the Rangers Hall of Fame at the weekend, which is quite a big thing. They induct 2 or 3 players every year, and he's been there that long now. He's part of the furniture pretty much.
Yeah.
And Joe Riley finally made his debut for Walsall.
Astonishing, isn't it? He had that injury he picked up in pre-season.
Mid-February.
And he's only just got himself fit again now. Because they said they couldn't work out what the problem was, could they? I think that was one of the issues they had with it. So nice to see him playing again, but I hope he doesn't have a particularly great second half of the season, because that means Walsall will be catching up on us. So there you go. That's it then, Dan. Thanks very much for joining me. Thanks everyone for listening. Thanks once again to our sponsors, London Branch, for their support this season. Upcoming episodes wise, obviously we'll have an episode out next week to preview the Grimsby game, and we're still trying to find the spare time, because the problem is often the only time both of us have spare is when we record the main episode, isn't it? So we're trying to find a bit of extra time to record this special that you're putting together, Dan, aren't you? In fact, I'm not going to say, am I? Because we don't want to spoil it, but it'll be a good episode, that one, I think. So we've got a bit of research to do on that one. But yeah, that's it. So thanks everyone for listening. 1 year of Simmo already gone. It's incredible, isn't it? Really, what's happened to this club in the last 12 months? But there you go.
I think I read it's 80 points in 47 games in that year.
I mean, that's promotion form, isn't it? That would probably get you. That would basically get you up in the top, probably in the top 3 in this division. Incredible. Well, there you go. Up the Blues. Simmo is our king, and thanks for listening. Up the Blues.
Up the Blues.